before we start, I just want to say I'm still thinking about Bill and Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Still just heartbroken.
It is heartbreaking. But it's like the internet discourse has not gone away.
No,
either.
I've not stopped thinking about it all week. I keep listening to that Linda Ron Start song.
Oh, yeah, you said.
And it makes me emotional, man. I just keep listening to it.
Oh, mate, the power of music, man.
Oh, trust me, it's a powerful song. So for this episode, though, I forget the title. What was the title?
Oh, mate, you're asking the wrong person.
So the title was Please Hold My Hand, which is quite interesting. Not quite sure what that means, but I'm sure we can deduce that as the time goes. But what was your initial impression of this episode?
I mean, it went the way that I thought it was going to, which was we were bound to hit the slump.
Yeah.
And by that, I don't mean it in a negative way. It's like you just couldn't maintain the momentum that we had coming into it. So it felt like after that last one, this was the inevitable episode that would follow it. What about you?
My first reaction, like 10, 15 minutes in, was like, yeah, okay, here's the dip. And you mentioned it last week. And listen, I have a few problems with this episode, interestingly.
Interesting, okay.
Yes, but overall I enjoyed it, and I think it's necessary to set up a lot that hopefully we kind of paid off towards the end.
Yeah.
But let's just jump into it then from the start. In a gas station bathroom, Ellie plays around with the gun she stole from Bill and Frank before heading out to find Joel siphoning petrol from an abandoned car. They have to make a stop for petrol almost every hour due to the fuel's age. To pass time, Ellie pulls out No Pun Intended Volume 2 by Will Livingston and tries to read a series of bad puns to an unreceptive Joel. As they head back out on the road, Ellie finds one of Bill's old porn magazines and messes with Joel by marvelling at the images. As they drive through the ruins of civilization, they finally go off-road into the woods to sleep for the night. So we'll stop there just for now, for the beginning. Again, we didn't have a cold open, which I was upset about because I've loved those two that we got.
Every time there isn't one now, I'm like, Francis is not going to like that.
No, it makes me a little bit sad just because they were so just unique.
They're impactful.
Impactful. But interesting start. I really liked the No Pun Intended book, Ellie reading these books. That was because that's from the game, and that's an event that happens. So just kind of when you're idling around and like searching, because you do a lot of looting in the game, Ellie will bring out this book and she starts reading these jokes. So it's like it's a nice moment of levity when you're playing and doing all this boring things. So you kind of get these jokes. Right. It's quite nice. But yeah, I thought that was a nice touch. I didn't have too much to kind of discuss over this bit, but I thought it was interesting when they go to sleep. Joel gets up and you see that shot of him in the night just standing there with his gun. Even though he says to her, no one will find us, he's still worried about what's out there. And I saw a comment online which I thought was very interesting, and it was saying how Bill mentioned to Frank, and this is what I was saying last week, what was the purpose of that episode? And I think it's the lesson that Bill learnt through Frank, and how Joel's going to maybe learn that lesson as well. But Bill said to Frank, I wasn't scared before I met you. And I wonder if this is a visualization of Joel in the same way. He wasn't scared before. Even though he couldn't sleep. I don't think he could sleep because he was taking those pills. But he's now, getting up in the night and watching.
Oh, mate, you are so right. That is exactly what it is. Because now he's got something to be worried about again.
Exactly.
I did think that it was odd. I mean, it sort of pays off but doesn't pay off at the end of the episode. The way that they sleep, the way that they bed down for the night, I thought at the time, before we got to the end of the episode, I thought this is odd to me that he is turning his back on her for sleep, because I would think as a sort of protector to be ready in the event of them getting ambushed, he would keep her in his sights. But then there's a sort of payoff to that later, which perhaps we'll come to when we talk about the end of the episode and how that sort of parallels what goes on here. That kind of explains it, but not satisfactorily to me.
Well, I'd imagine it's just a visual representation of that wall that Joel is holding up against Ellie, where he's not fully letting her in and he's not fully embracing her yet. Although I think that's the whole purpose of this episode is that relationship slowly building and him slowly starting to embrace her. But I guess it's probably he's so defensive about letting anyone in that even this girl who he's protecting, he's sleeping with his back to her because I guess he doesn't want to open up to her.
Yeah, that's true.
What did you find the magazine bit?
That was hilarious to me, man.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
I really liked it. Did you not like that?
I did, but it's from the game, right? And again, I know this is like, I feel like this might come up again, but this is one of these moments where it was word for word, shot for shot, pacing, beat for beat, exactly the same. And I got this uncanny valley sort of thing where it felt like two people doing something I knew, but it wasn't those people. And so I was watching it and hearing the line delivery and even just their facial expressions. And for me, it was so unbelievably jarring. It kind of ruined it for me a bit.
See, very interesting, of course, but that's how it goes. That's how it goes with things like remakes. If you're familiar with an original and you watch a remake, you can't view it. Yeah. You can't view it in the same way as someone who's only watching that remake.
I know.
Like someone's watching it and going, this is great. For me, it's The Departed. That sort of stuff happens. There's loads of things in Infernal Affairs that are so well done, but everyone talks about how well it was done in The Departed, and I'm like, no, hang on.
Yeah.
In Infernal Affairs, it was played off much, much better.
Yeah.
But it worked for me as a first-time viewer. I can get how that would be jarring for you, though.
That's good, though, because it's nice to have that perspective from you, because... Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen on the internet, a lot of people have been pretty complimentary about this episode. A lot of people are saying they love it.
Oh, okay, that's good.
But yeah, I think it's very sweet, and this goes with the pun book and the magazine. Ellie's constantly, in this episode especially, kind of trying to make Joel laugh, and he's very shut off and defensive, and he won't let anything in. But it really warms you to Ellie, because he, despite all of that, she's still making silly jokes and trying to make him laugh, which is it's such a sweet thing, and you can warm to her in that way.
And it is a very childlike thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, trying to please that sort of person by trying to be funny,
and to have that contrasted with opening shots of her loading and unloading a gun and practicing how to shoot someone as well. Yeah. Like childhood innocence and childhood depravity at the same time.
I know, and that's, the episode starts and ends with that, a child holding a gun. So
that's true. Yeah,
we'll get to that later. But right, so we'll move on. Ellie wakes up the next morning to Joel making coffee, the smell of which she finds disgusting. She asks Joel about Tommy, who explains he always wanted to be a hero, but the only thing worth living for is family. Ellie points out that she's not family, and Joel agrees, saying, "You're cargo," but he made a promise to Tess. They are soon interrupted by a man in the street claiming to be injured. However, Joel is not fooled and immediately steps on the accelerator. And sure enough, the man turns out to be a raider, and they're quickly ambushed. They crash the car into an abandoned laundromat. A shootout ensues, and Joel is ambushed by a raider who attempts to choke him to death. However, Ellie gets the drop on him with her gun, shooting him in the back, paralysing him. Jesus.
That's brutal.
I know. Ellie watches as the man, whose name is Brian, starts pleading for his life. Joel ultimately ends it. So we'll pause there for a moment. Quickly, the coffee bit, I thought that was really sweet.
Where do you stand on coffee, by the way?
I'm one of these people, I love the smell of it, the taste of it I can't get on with, which is strange.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I love coffee. Right. It is like the magic. It's the only magic that I need in the world. I think if it came down to booze and coffee would be the one thing that I would stick with, because I need it. But it's also that I thought it's like that transitional phase, because I remember being a kid hating coffee, the smell of it, the taste of it, thinking I will never like coffee. And then one day I realised I'm an adult because I'm having coffee every single day, and it's like something flips in your brain. You're an adult now, coffee is acceptable.
That's true.
And it's just reminding us she's still a kid, because coffee for her is like
that's very true. Yeah, maybe season 2, once she's maybe grown up. I don't know how old she's going to be in season 2, but yeah, let's say she's drinking coffee. We'll both be like, well, listen, we know she's lost her innocence. But yeah, I thought that was sweet. The moment where Ellie asks Joel about Tommy, and Joel's explaining he always wants to be the hero. He joined the army and then left, and then he joined the Fireflies and then left, and blah blah blah. And I found it interesting because Joel talks as if he's the one who has to go and save the day and go and save his brother. And I feel like he's almost being hypocritical in a way without realizing it. He feels like it's his burden and he's the only one who can do it. But if Tommy wants to do it, it's just, Tommy's being silly. And I think Joel is blinded by that. Maybe it's like his protective nature in him.
I'll tell you what on this scene, that is a little bit jarring for me. Okay, because I've not played the game. This is the first time that I actually stopped and was like, okay, wait, what are the fireflies? Because he's telling, it's a bit of an exposition dump.
Yeah.
And it feels like for the first time in The Last of Us, the TV series, exposition when he's giving all of that. But I was like, hang on, we are talking about fireflies, but what are the fireflies? Are we as viewers at this point meant to understand if they are good, bad, terrorist organization, rebellion organization, decent people? I feel like maybe it's got lost along the way for me.
I think it's ambiguous intentionally. I mean, it's like the group of raiders you meet later with this Kathleen lady, who they were supposed to be a revolution against the military, and you'd assume, you know, they would be the good guys, but the way they're acting and the sort of depravity they're delving into, it's like, is there any good side in this? Can anyone be the good side or the winners, or is it just, you know, there's always going to be another sort of empire taking over? But I do excuse me, I do get what you mean in that it's hard to sort of follow at the moment what the deal is with them, but hopefully that will become clearer later on. I'm sure
it will. Good. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't like being left behind in the dust at this point. I'd missed exactly what their whole ethos was.
Another just point on that, Joel, we spoke about hope before, and that moment where Tess was talking to Joel about hope. Joel seems sort of hell-bent on not allowing himself any hope, and I think over this episode, you know, as he slowly warms to Ellie, he's hopefully going to change. But and again, it's the same thing with the way he's talking about Tommy. I feel like he just doesn't give himself any hope, and he's punishing himself for what happened to Sarah, and because of that, he just won't let himself be happy. He won't let himself move on, and that's why I think he's so shut off to Ellie.
You're right. Yeah, you're totally right. I agree. I'm looking forward to what I assume is an inevitable reunion between the two brothers, because we don't know, as viewers, don't really know the state of the relationship in the fallout of what happened to Sarah. Okay, we know that they were obviously still in communication up to a point, but I don't know what that relationship is going to be like when they're together on screen. I feel like they're going to be chalk and cheese. So I look forward to seeing that play out.
Yes. So let's talk about the ambush scene.
Fooled me, man. Fooled me.
Oh, the guy.
When the guy came out, I was like, look at Joel. He ain't learned nothing. Just like when they were driving down that road and Tommy was like, should we stop and help them? And Joel was like, no, we've got to keep going.
Yeah.
I thought, he's learned nothing. He has learned. He knows. It's survival, baby. It's survival.
He said he's been on both sides. Ellie asks him, how did you know I've been on both sides of it? Again, which I thought was nice. Nice bit of writing, because it's not explicit, but it's like, oh, okay, there's a lot of backstory here, and you can...
absolutely,
infer a lot.
Absolutely. Another layer there that you didn't even think about.
So this is where I thought the episode was going, because I know this is what happens next in the game. But interestingly, I thought they dropped the bag a little bit with the moment where Ellie shoots the guy. So I thought the whole thing should have been from Ellie's point of view. It just there wasn't as much tension for me as there should have been. Because so Ellie goes and hides in the wall, and then you've got Joel shooting, and then that little fight ensues. And by the way, that guy who's choking out Joel, how skinny is he? Is Joel really...
He's a little runt. I know, yeah.
Is Joel really losing that fight? I was like,
I know.
I'm not
how
sure
was he
I buy
overpowered
this.
like that?
Yeah, I know he's like, they kind of say later he's 56 or whatever. He's old. But I don't know, man. I don't think he's losing that fight.
No, I don't.
But I thought it would have been so much better. Let's say, for example, Ellie goes behind the wall, and then you hear all this gunfire and shooting, and it's loud, there's dust flying everywhere, and it's like a small crack in the wall, and you can only sort of make out what Joel's doing, and you can see the raiders come in, blah, blah, blah. You don't know what's going on. Then you hear the door open, and you hear a struggle, and you're looking through the crack, and you can't quite work out what's going on. And you're still with Ellie, and she's looking at the gun thinking, oh, fuck, do I do it? Do I stay? He told me to stay. Should I go? And then ultimately she comes out with the gun and finds Joel almost dead, and then she shoots him. I thought that would have been so much more impactful. But we like kind of jump back and forth. This awkward shot of this skinny guy holding the gun against Joel, who's like, I'm just like, dude, just... I don't know if I'm being stupid here, but I'm just like, mate,
no, just like, buck him off.
Exactly. He's like, you could flick him and he'd go fucking miles. So it disappointed me a little bit. But I think the end result of what it meant and how Ellie felt, and the guy pleading for his life, I thought that was lovely. But just the setup of it all, it didn't work for me.
You know what? That is the editor in you coming out. Absolutely. It's the choice. The choice is...
Exactly.
They should have showed less. You're right, absolutely. I'm also surprised that they paid off she's got a secret gun
that soon
in the next episode.
Yeah.
Like, we spoke about it and like, it's going to pay off at some point. The next episode, I felt like they could have held on to that for a more revealing, deep moment.
Although they've set it up again, she's putting it in her pocket again, so it's like,
that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe that won't even come into it, but it's like doing it again.
But I get what you mean about it being slightly underwhelming. You're right. If they had stayed from her point of view the whole time, that would have absolutely added something to it. That would have made us really identify with her in that stressful position. I think the shot itself, for a moment there, it's interesting that you said she paralysed him. I didn't even clock that. I actually thought she shot him in the arse, and I thought they were playing it for laughs at first. I thought, this is going to be a gag moment now, because when he rolls over, I was half expecting it to be like, you shot me in the ass, something like that, which was going to annoy me if they went that route.
Yeah.
But then for it to shift to Joel having to stick a dagger into his heart, that was dark. And I like that we didn't see that.
Yeah, I thought it was nice, though, that he used the knife because, again, scarcity. Bullets are probably hard to come by.
Save those bullets.
Save the bullets, exactly. But yeah, I think he says at one point, I can't move my legs or something, and he's pleading.
Damn, so that went over my head. That is a lot darker.
You're obviously
a lot darker.
Just too mortified by the moment.
I was, absolutely.
Okay, so we'll move on, though. We meet Kathleen, who is played by Melanie Linsky, who I just know from 2.5 Men.
So I know her from Yellow Jackets.
She's in Yellow Jackets, but she was Charlie's stalker in 2.5 Men. So that's just I can only see that. Right, yeah. But yeah, so Kathleen, leader of this group of raiders, is informed of what happened. She concludes her enemies, including a man named Henry, who she believes gave up her brother to be executed, are responsible for contacting the killers. She orders her followers to search the city for them. Joel and Ellie hide away as Joel offers his attempt at consoling Ellie before finally teaching her how to hold a gun properly. Kathleen's second-in-command, Perry, shows her a room with something growing underground. He insists they deal with the problem now, but Kathleen is more concerned about finding Henry, ordering Perry to hide the evidence until then. Joel locates a high-rise building where he can get a good view of the surrounding area and find an exit route. Before they sleep, Ellie makes Joel laugh for the first time with a joke from her book of puns. However, after being woken up, they find Henry and his brother Sam holding them at gunpoint. Cool, so this is covering quite a lot.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Right.
This is the first time watching this TV show where I thought, okay, they're not playing to me anymore. They're not playing to me as a first-time viewer. Once we hit... Is her name Melanie, did you say?
Kathleen.
Kathleen, sorry.
Yeah.
Once we hit what's going on with her and all the references to Henry and my brother and that doctor, I thought, this feels to me like those of you who've played the game are going to get what we're hinting at here, and we're exciting you by saying Henry. Like, Henry means something to you guys who've played the game. I don't know who Henry is. So if that was Henry at the end of the episode pulling the gun, I had no idea. So that final moment where there is a gun pointed at Joel and we cut to black, I thought, why are we cutting to black on the most underwhelming scene we've seen in the show so far for me, which is a little kid pointing a gun at Joel?
Yeah, I think you're right. They didn't. I think the way they set this up, once you meet the raiders, I think it was a little clumsy. They mentioned Henry a lot, and even it went over my head at the beginning. I didn't fully realise until later on, where in that moment where they go up into that cellar, basement, or whatever it is. Not basement. What's above basement? Above their house? Cellar?
An attic?
Attic, that's the one. The moment they go into the attic and they find those drawings, that's when I realised, this is Henry and Sam. This is this point in the game. Because that must have been where Henry and Sam were hiding out.
Right.
But you're right. I think this was a little clumsy. They were trying to set up a lot here, and I think hopefully in the next episode it will, like I say, pay off a bit better. But it felt a bit rushed, a bit clumsy. There was a lot of over expositional dialogue, but it kind of didn't fully land because you're like, who's Henry and her brother's been executed and I don't know.
Yeah, it was rushed, and it felt like it didn't just feel like, okay, I'm being left behind here. It felt like we're trying to convey a shitload of information about these characters in the smallest amount of time possible.
Yeah.
When she's talking to her doctor about her brother and did you show him mercy when he was here or whatever she was saying, she then goes outside, sees those kids are dead, and she's like, I've got a doctor, and they're like, yeah, it's too late. So she just goes back in and shoots the doctor. I feel like that was meant to convey a lot of information about her character.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was lost on me because it happened so quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was almost a poison chalice in a way. They can't spend another whole episode like they did on Bill and Frank. They can't keep doing that for every new character. So and I don't know how much of a role Kathleen is going to play. It might only be a few episodes, I don't know. But it didn't fully come across. Although I think the theme, after thinking about the episode, I thought, and I think I said last week, one of the big themes of the show is love. That's what Craig Mazin said. And this is almost the opposite side of the coin to what love can do. We had the lovely mushy side with Bill and Frank, but this is vengeance through love. She's lost her brother, and she, in a post-apocalyptic world, she kills a guy who's a doctor, which is, invaluable knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I thought that was interesting, and it's, I don't know how much of a role it's going to play, but she's consumed by her love in a different way, which I thought was interesting. There's this growing, moving floor, pavement thing, which she just decides to ignore because she's hell-bent on finding people who she thinks killed her brother. Like,
yes.
There's a lot of warning signs here, and she's slowly losing it, I think. I don't know.
The pulsating floor took me aback because I was not expecting that in this show.
I wasn't either, to be honest. I did not see that coming. I don't even know how to describe it. Pulsating floor is very good, yeah. It
was almost like at first when I saw the what looked like an impact point, I thought, oh, is this where one of the bombs landed when they were shelling certain cities? This is like a bit of shrapnel caused this impact. But then when it started throbbing, I'm like, what the hell is this now? What is this?
Do you have an idea?
I'm guessing it's like a nest, and it's like well, no, not a nest, because they're not having babies. These things aren't having babies. They're infecting people. So it's not like they're reproducing. But it struck me like an entrance point.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't fully know. I can only guess because it's not something like you directly see in the game. But yeah, I think it must be some sort of nest or hive where maybe there's just a lot of this fungus growing. We will find out, I'm sure. But it's interesting that she decides to ignore it, and her security guard fella, who interestingly is played by the guy who plays Tommy in the game. They've given
interesting.
Yeah, they've given lots of roles. I think it's quite sweet. They've given lots of roles from people in the game in the show. So
that's
quite,
very cool.
It's quite nice.
But I like those little Easter eggs.
Exactly. He's the sort of guy you'd look at him and think, oh, this guy's not going to give a shit. He's going to just want to kill. But he's the one who shows sort of concern. And Kathleen's like, no, just hide it. We need to find Henry and Sam.
So are you telling me you don't know what this is, or are you just being diplomatic because you don't want to spoil it?
I don't explicitly know what it is, but I have a good idea at deducing what it will be. But like in terms of what I've seen, not necessarily. But I think I know. Oh, one other note I said as well, which I just thought was funny. Kathleen, when she shoots the doctor, that's her killing Walter White moment and being left with Heisenberg. I feel like she's.
Oh shit!
I was like, yeah, that's what's happened. I just quite enjoyed.
Just broke bad.
Exactly, she broke bad. But let's move on to Joel trying to console Ellie. I thought this was a really pivotal moment, actually. For Joel being our main character, it shows us, despite him having all these defenses up, he still has morals, and he's still hopefully a good man. I know it seems like he's done a lot of bad things, but in terms of whether he's a good or bad person, child having to shoot someone is a place where he draws the line, and it's somewhere you can side with him and latch on to him as a character. Because this whole time, I mean, we love Joel anyway, but he's just been very stern, shut off, and there's not a lot to sort of attach to, is there?
Yeah.
But I thought it was sweet when he was trying to console her, and he's like, I'm not good at this. And it's probably the first time he's had to do anything like this since Sarah. Yeah. So it's got to be so difficult for him. Yeah,
absolutely. He definitely softens because not only, it almost takes her to do it first though, right? Because doesn't she say to him first, are you okay?
That's true, yeah.
And then he says, yeah, and then he's almost like touched.
And I don't know, actually.
Is it her first?
I can't remember. Well, I'll put an edit in and I'll let us know.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm all right. Are you all right?
And then also, like, a couple of times in this final section, he also is like, kid like you, it's not right, it's not fair, you shouldn't have had to have done that. You shouldn't have had to seen that. It's like now he's realizing the gravity. Like, you don't say that about cargo. You say that about a person you start caring for.
Yeah. That's it. He's slowly, like I say, he's slowly starting to embrace her. And as much as he wants to resist, it's happening.
Yeah.
Which has got to be difficult for him.
But interestingly, it's almost like the corruption of her childhood, her innocence, which has made him treat her like a human being, because it's after she shoots, paralyzes, and learns that, oh, this isn't the first time, that he becomes even more protective of her.
I think that's it, because he's obviously got a lot of trauma with how children have been treated in this world and what happened to his daughter. So it must bring out that paternal sort of nature inside him. Yeah,
reluctantly, he's been fighting it.
Yeah, he has
several episodes.
For dear life.
Yeah, I mean, it would feel like a betrayal in a way, I guess, for him to his own daughter, to be forming a connection with a child that isn't his. How can that be fair? My child is dead. She died in my arms, pretty much, and now this girl is here beside me, taking her place. I'm not going to form a connection to her.
This is what I mean, like that moment in the car where he's talking about Tommy and his hope. It feels like he doesn't want to have any hope because he's punishing himself, and it's such a tragic thing, but. You can't avoid it forever. Like, time is going to move on, and eventually, you will open up.
Yeah, you are the person that you are.
Yeah.
What about when he said something about your first time killing someone, and she said it wasn't my first time? Are we just meant to think, oh, she's referring to the infected that she killed in the basement, or is it alluding to something else in her history that we're not privy to yet?
I'm not sure. Because I did have that thought. I thought maybe it's talking about the clicker, because I don't actually know. Assuming at some point we're going to see what happened to Ellie before, I'm assuming we're going to get a flashback episode or something like that. So we'll find out. I guess we have to see. But
good. That's what I was hoping on. I was hoping that there is something in her past that we're not privy to that is going to be revealed at some point. So I hope that is exactly what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And then finally, she said the joke about the diarrhea. It runs in your genes or whatever. And he's resisting at the beginning, but he finally lets out the laugh and just starts chuckling, and they're both just laughing. I was looking at that shot again, and obviously they're happy, but Ellie just seems so happy to sort of
have made him laugh.
Exactly, and it's so sweet. But what a lovely moment. And I think whilst this episode was slower, and I did have a couple issues, I did enjoy it. But I think the main reason was slowly building that relationship, just working on it a little bit more, which then hopefully is going to pay off later down the line. Yeah,
absolutely, man. To finish it with the two of them having a laugh right before guns are pulled at them is a beautiful way of progressing the story from the end of the last episode after the heartbreak of it. There is another moment in this. It's so fleeting, where you see the beauty of life revealing itself on Joel, and it's when they're in the car and she picks the Hank Williams tape up and puts it in. For a split second, when it comes on, it's almost like orgasmic to him. You can see it on his face for like 2 seconds, where he's like, and then he composes himself immediately. So it's like, it's there, like love and life is right beneath the surface. You want it. Why would you resist it? There's many reasons that he has, but he's gonna have to embrace it.
Yeah, you can't resist it forever as much as he wants to. And then I suppose finally we meet Henry and Sam, and if it wasn't clear who they were, I mean, did you not know they were Henry and Sam then?
Hell no,
because they don't really set them up properly, do they? Like,
I didn't even connect them to the drawings of what looked like Superman in the attic. Like I for a while I thought, oh, this is some horrific thing. This is like an adult man who's doing these drawings. So when they turned up at the end, I just thought, oh, these are a couple of scramblers, raiders in the area that have decided to pull their guns on Joel and Ellie. I have no idea who Henry and Sam are. Even with you saying their names, I don't know their significance in the universe. No.
I think the next episode will hopefully unravel some of what's going on that was set up in this episode. But yeah, I guess we have to see how they get out of the situation with a kid pointing a gun right at Joel's face, which is something he obviously struggles with because of what the conversation with Ellie. He obviously finds that side of the world difficult, and then he wakes up and the kid's got a gun in his face. So
yeah, that's an interesting parallel that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah,
I mean, I still, like, without the context of that being Henry and Sam, I found it an underwhelming ending.
It was a short episode as well, wasn't it?
It's a short episode. It's like all the episode lengths have been all over the place so far.
Yeah, I kind of enjoy that though.
I do.
I like it when it's not uniform and it's whatever, this is how long this one is.
Yeah, and I mean the episodes aren't, because you could not get a more different episode to last week's one. Like, they don't even feel at this moment in time like they fit together in the same universe.
No.
Like, when we've seen all the entire season, it's going to be interesting to see if this is one of those standout episodes that you get in a television series where it's so not tonally inconsistent, but very different, a big departure from the other episode trajectory.
Yeah. We'll have to see. But I don't know if you saw, next week, the episode is out on Friday. Did you see this?
What, this Friday?
Yeah.
Or next Friday?
This Friday, I think.
Oh, shit.
Because of
Why is that?
The Super Bowl. Apparently, it's a big thing in America.
God, these Americans, man.
Overall, a builder episode, a bit slower. Lots of people have loved it online, so that's good. But yeah, for me, it was the dip. But that doesn't mean it was terrible. I'd probably give it like a 7. That's probably quite generous.
I'm with you.
But yeah.
I'm with you, Francis. This is very troubling. I thought you and I were going to be so polar parts on our views on things, but we're too in sync at the moment. Something's going to come along and it's going to really divide us.
Yeah, that'll be.
We're right on the brink of it, I feel.
That'll be a long episode as well, I'm sure.
It would.
Maybe it'll be the last one.
That's it. Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. We'll end it there then. But yeah, we'll catch you guys next week. See you then.
Thanks for watching.
So all the information for the giveaway is on the screen now. It's really simple, guys. All you have to do is follow 3 accounts on Instagram. That's Francis Films YT, Filmbusters Ben, and Filmbusters Pod. So that's my account, Ben's account, and then the Filmbusters podcast account, which is the podcast Ben is on and that I've been a guest on a few times. They're good guys, so they deserve it. And then all you have to do is subscribe to Francis Films on YouTube, and that, of course, is where you are right now. So it's quite easy to just go and subscribe. And for all of this, you can win The Last of Us Part 1 remastered on PS5 and a PlayStation Store gift card, so it's quite a good prize, guys. I will announce the winner after the season finale. Good luck, everyone, and again, thanks for watching so much. I'll catch you next time.